My wife and I are likely to be millionaires within the next 2 years, and I made a YouTube short talking about how to become a millionaire starts with your habits. And the comments that I got out of this video were extremely disheartening, and it really shows the broke mindset of people that will forever just be in the gutter because they haven't been able to wrap their head around a very simple concept. And within this video, I made a simple statement that says, look, basically, let's presume you're drinking Starbucks 5 days a week when you go to your job. That Starbucks, let's presume, is $5. That's $25 a week. That's $100 a month. That's $1,200 a year. Let's presume you're 30 years old and you're going to retire at 60. If you just stop drinking that Starbucks, you invested in the S&P 500, you got a 10% rate of return, it's likely that you're giving up around $200,000+ drinking that Starbucks. The Starbucks isn't just costing you $100 a month. It's costing you substantially more. And I just made this simple video implying that if you could just find a few pinpoints in your life to save some money, because I have by no means ever made real money up to the last 2 years of my entire, working career. And I wasn't making much more than 50 grand a year. And I've been able to put myself in an incredible position by just not drinking Starbucks and eating out all the time, just being frugal and living as cheaply as possible to put away 50% of my income, because I'm trying to fast track my financial independence. Now, I'm not saying you have to fast track it, but very simple things like this will absolutely change that financial outlook. And the comments are just staggering, like 10%. That's dreaming. 10% a year, you're not getting that. Did you not preemptively invest in magic? Lol pitches frugal finance tips, proceeds to promote the S&P as a sound investment at 10% too. This is just so kind of crazy to me because there is more history on this investment than pretty much any investment that exists. And I don't know if they're looking forward, just presuming the entire economy is given up and there's no more growth ahead of us, or they just haven't looked far enough backwards to be like, damn, the best time to start growing a tree probably yesterday, but I guess I have today to start. And I mean, over a 30-year period, the S&P as of September 2023 has averaged 9.74%. And if you just go on VOO, I mean, the year to date, it's up 15%. And if you just take a look at the last, 10 years, it's been 11.95%. Am I just missing something here? I'm just offering a very simplified solution, right? And he says, lol, yeah, save every penny and watch it go valueless to inflation. The whole point of investing your money is to not lose it to inflation. Well, let's presume you went back 20 years ago and instead of buying Starbucks, you managed to come up with $1,000. Imagine 1 year of not buying Starbucks and just putting it in Starbucks stock. That $1,000 alone would now be worth well over $16,000 with a dividend. It'd probably be worth closer to $20,000 with a dividend, especially if you reinvested those dividends. That $1,000 of just not drinking Starbucks for that 1 year invested in the company would basically perpetuate you being able to drink Starbucks for the rest of that 20 years. Like, obviously you'd have to pull it out, you lose the gains, but I'm just saying the amount of money that you would have made, it blows my mind how people just, their brains are just like, fundamentally inflation is going to kill your money anyways. Or what's the point of investing? Like, I just don't understand. Like, maybe I've just been fortunate to have gotten into investing early enough to see this benefit and know what potential there is. Yeah, there's risk with everything to some extent, but you can't just hold cash. You can't just give up on your future presuming that that little bit of Starbucks makes me happy every day. I'm gonna leave that as my happiness. It kind of reminds me of when I ended up buying Tesla stock and I made enough money off the stock to buy a Tesla car. It's like, it's always better to invest in the products you like than perhaps wasting the money buying them. Like, the feeling of getting that free capital almost, especially if it's in a tax advantaged account, is a much better feeling than me even driving around in a Tesla. I'm like, I'm not going to buy a Tesla. Like, my cheap little beater car, the money I'm saving that will perpetuate so many Teslas into the future. Who really cares, right? I'd rather have that financial independence than look good or feel good in a car. It's like buying a telecom giant. You can just go look at who are you using for telecommunication, like Rogers, Bell. Like, I mean, you can just go buy one of those stocks, 10,000, and invest it in one of those companies. You never have to pay a phone bill in perpetuity for the rest of your life. Like, this isn't really like a complicated thing to understand. You only deserve coffee once you're rich. And I'm not saying give up on these luxuries in life. Like, I have luxuries I still enjoy that I waste money on, but the vast majority of things that I do on a day-to-day basis are highly cheap. Coffee probably costs me 20 cents or less just making it at home. I just get instant coffee. Sometimes I have some pressed coffee. I don't even use it that much. But come on, guys, like, get real here, right? Like, you don't have to give up on everything. It's just cutting a few things here. And people have been pointing out some of my problems too. I'm like, I'm not perfect at investing. Like somebody said lately, I've noticed that you've been panic and selling at lower points. To name a few, Meta, when it was crashing, you were covering the quarterly results. Now VDY, which is the best time to add, in my opinion. Anyways, fun watching your videos. So I've never gotten out of the market, and I just want to make that very clear when I sell some of these names. And I took a pretty substantial gain on Meta still, because I owned it from like the 170s to 200 range. And basically when the market dropped, Meta dropped from 300 to the 220 range in that drop of 2022, I got skittish. I didn't want to hold the volatility because, you know, my fiance holds a lot of tech companies as well, and I felt more comfortable putting it in the S&P 500 or, you know, like VOO or some of these broader ETFs, because I didn't know how this was going to work out. And sure enough, I sold at 220 at a profit, and it dropped all the way down to 90. I looked like a genius then, right? But then all of a sudden, Meta went from $90 back up to over 300 a share. And now I don't look like so much of a genius, but it was just the feeling in my gut that I had because we were very leveraged in Meta stock. We still hold it's one of the largest positions still within my wife and I's portfolio because of her holdings. Now, he does admit it. His girlfriend seems to be more disciplined. She kept Meta all through the lows up to the current highs. If I remember correctly, she kept other tech stocks through the 2022 tech bear market as well. Yeah, she's a little bit more ride or die with these companies, whereas because I have been through substantial downturns and seen what happens when I hold the wrong companies for too long, I get a bit skittish, and I'd rather hold a more diversified set of them just to protect the entirety of our portfolios. And it's kind of same with VDY, right? Like, I didn't just sell VDY and be like, oh, I don't trust the Canadian markets. I'm going to be buying VDY back in my tax advantaged account, but for now it makes more sense, in my opinion, in my corporate account, just to put it in the S&P 500. And though I may have sold near the lows, I also bought the S&P 500 near its recent lows, which is now up more than VDY is, because I would feel like I'd feel bad if I sold these stocks and just stayed out of the market. That is stupid, right? But I'm just slowly playing with small pieces of my portfolio and just trying to do what works best for me. And a lot of that can end up being a mistake in the long term, but it's so retrospective and you don't know what's going to happen in the future, right? So I just think it's funny how in the short term I look smart, long term I look dumb, and it's just, you can't really gauge that out. So long as you're always buying stocks and you're always in the market, you're going to do well, in my opinion, presuming you're not just buying like highly speculative investments, right? But oh yeah, he does admit, and he is open about it, which is fantastic, as most people here on YouTube let it slip under the rug. I have said only what I had noticed, so I do appreciate it, because like I said, I'm not perfect, I'll make mistakes, but I bring it to you here, and I hope it comes with some motivation, you know, some inspiration, because I still think my favorite ETFs that even for my parents' retirement we're looking at are things like XEI, VDY. We're not chasing super high yielding companies like a lot of the covered call ETFs. We're even looking at growth companies. I still love the S&P 500 even for someone's retirement, right? But these are just conversations that I think people need to have more, and they shouldn't shoot down an idea just because it's the way I've become rich and successful in my life. It's just, it blows my mind at how people that have done it tell you how to do it in the most simplified fashion possible, and yet someone's going to still come up in the comment section and try and deter you from bettering your own life. These are just my opinions, but I'd love to know what you think in that comment section below.